You can
Should we?
start. Yeah, you can start.
Okay. Okay. So, Srishti, first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me, and I would first of all introduce myself that I'm Dr. Rutuja Karkhanis More. I'm right now with NMIMS. At the Sananda Divetia School of Sciences. I'm the head of the department for psychology there. Right now we have two courses. We have BSc in applied psychology, and now we'll be starting with MSc in applied psychology. So this is what my present status is. To just brief you a little bit about my background. So I'm basically from Gujarat. I did my MPsych in clinical forensic psychology, and then I did my PhD. I worked in the area of menopause, so that was my area for my doctorate. And after that, I'm associated to Delhi as well, because my very first job was in Delhi. So I was at Safdarjung at that time, and I started my career in 2012. Okay, so I think it's been 10 years I'm in the field now, and so I have worked with various institutes and hospitals and universities. But to shorten a bit, like from 2014, I started working with the Indian Air Force as a clinical psychologist, and then they placed me there as a military psychologist. So I was with the Air Force and with the Indian Army. Then in 2016, I started working at Gujarat Forensic Sciences University. Now it's known as National Forensic Sciences University. And I used to head two programs there. Earlier, I was the program coordinator for MA, MSc Criminology, and then MSc Forensic Psychology. And in 2019, I came to Mumbai. I was also appointed as an assistant professor at Amity University, Mumbai, but somehow it was not possible for me to book there. And then after that, I worked, and the pandemic started after that. So I worked with the BMC over here, and the municipal corporation, Mumbai Municipal Corporation. I worked with the BMC. I helped a lot of COVID patients, and then just after that I started working with NM, and I'm with NM right now. So yeah.
Yes. So, ma'am, you have like a wide experience in different fields of psychology.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so yeah, it's been 10 years. So I have worked with clinical patients. I have worked with army personals, FO personals. I've worked with children. I've worked with students, because since I've taught them. And the most interesting part was that when I was with Gujarat Forensic Sciences University, and I used to, lead MSc Forensic Psychology. So we used to get a lot of live cases there. So I've even dealt in interrogating with the terrorist there, and also have helped the department in solving few cases. And this was a part of our job. So we had to do that apart from teaching and conducting practicals and all. So yes, I've done that. So yeah, so that's how, and since I am a student of GFSU, so now NFSU. So with that, I have, I really have a good exposure to the area of forensic psychology. And one thing that I would say that, so when things are new, you tend to kind of find your own ways to it and develop your own techniques and tools to deal with it. So I think forensic psychology was in 2012, I'm talking about it. It was quite new in the nation, and our university was one of its kind who was actually dealing with it. And then we were coming up with new technology and research, and cases and all those things. So we started searching out our own ways and started developing our own tools. And we started like kind of learning our own self, that this can be applicable, that can be applicable. So I'm not only talking about myself, but also the other or like other students and other faculties over there, and this is how we started developing. So now when we talk about forensic psychology, it's not only limited to criminals, but now we also have victims, we also have police, so there's another established area, police psychology, legal psychology, justice psychology, that we call, that we name as. And we can talk about eyewitnesses, we can talk about people associated to crimes. So yes, cyber crime is now the upcoming area. So forensic psychology is now, containing a lot of different things. And then the other interesting thing that we started doing when I was at GFSU was forensic rehabilitation. That was initiated by my professor, Dr. Silvaya. So she is the chief forensic psychologist, and she started forensic rehabilitation at Sabarmati Central Jail. So it's not only about solving crimes, but even penology and prison psychology is also taken into consideration. So that's how the field gets vast and large.
Yes, ma'am. So, so it would have been a great experience till now, ma'am. You would be looking forward to many new of them.
Sorry, I can't hear you. What?
Ma'am, as of now, it has been a great experience for you, and you're looking forward to some more of them.
Yeah, it has. So somehow it has been a great experience. I'll tell you why. On a humorous side, so we all are into Netflix and OTT platforms, and nowadays, the series that we usually watch are usually crime solvers and relating to crime. So it gives us
Yes,
a fascinating kick that yes, you do something that you watch it on Netflix. So yes, that is a thing that you get to experience, so that's the fun part of it. But everything has its pros and cons. So as far as India, like as far as our nation, and if I talk about India, forensic psychology is not at much of the importance in terms of education. Yes, there are like institutes also in Delhi, in Gujarat, and I think somewhere in South, there are institutions, there are universities who are practicing forensic psychology, who are training students for forensic psychology. But when it comes to job opportunities in India, it is there are questions to it, and things are a little you can't predict, like whether you'll be getting a job, you won't be getting a job, because government is I think government should kind of make some schemes or some plans or something, some acts to actually compulsorily put a forensic psychologist at each and every police station, so that interrogation gets more easier. Even police, the IOs, the investigating officers who are dealing with the cases, will also get some psychological aid or psychological help, so that they know that what personality needs what sort of an interrogation technique. Or if I am say for example, I am type A, so I have to understand what is type B. So all these things are very important when we take psychology in consideration. And I think psychology is everywhere, so in any department you go, in any organization you go, at home, anywhere, it's psychology, because at the end of the day you deal with human behavior. So I think the job opportunities should be encouraged more by the government, like something that is meant, that has been made mandatory, or something like that, because if we study since we are here to talk about forensic psychology. So when we study forensic psychology and we talk about forensic psychology, what is the major thing that I see in the Western countries, in prisons, in the police departments, or at the private, private investigators, like with the private investigators, they have a bit basic knowledge on forensic psychology. And let's talk about general psychology or applied psychology. So they have that knowledge. But when we talk about people over here, psychology is somewhere like it's just first of all, psychology is taught in humanities, in the arts background, okay, whereas psychology is a science. Psychology does contain biology, so it should be taught under the field of science, and like under the stream of science. Let's put that way. So unfortunately in India those standards aren't been maintained. Now things are changing. Like if I talk about my institute, my university, we have like MSc in applied psychology, BSc in applied psychology, because it should be given that much of importance. So because of that thought, people will study psychology, and I think it will be applicable, and I think we'll be able to contribute and make some difference. And uh, 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 whereas right now the nation is kind of in need of that. So I think job opportunities is something that we should be working on as a nation. Whereas education is concerned, I think we have the best of universities around us. So yes, I mean there's no question about that.
Yes, ma'am. One thing that I agree with you is that there are just a bunch full of colleges in India which offers the course of psychology under science.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everybody is into BA or MA.
Yeah, and I don't understand the reason. Like I'm still unable to know. I don't have the answer for that. And I don't say that the colleges or the universities who put psychology under arts or humanities are wrong. I think the teaching that they give, the learning that they give must be the best. But when
Yes,
it's about the degree, what, because at the end of the day the degree that matters. So when we talk about the degree, I think it should, like, psychology should be respected that way. If a
yes,
stream, like just like engineering, or just like medicine, or just like any other computer science, it's the same way I think psychology should be respected and should be given the value that it deserves. And I strongly believe in this thing as a psychologist, the that it should be given the value that it deserves. But that's why I think in the Western countries it comes under science, and people do get jobs, and they are getting the, so you study something so that you implement it in your profession, and you make it as your
yes,
profession. Like that's the simple rule that we all follow. The thing is that because it's not like implemented, or it's not, the procedure is not followed systematically, the jobs are like at stake, like there are no jobs for people. And that's why I think psychology is considered as anyone can do it. But that
yes.
shouldn't be the case as per my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am. Another thing, ma'am, you talked about the series that we watch on Netflix. One thing that I feel about them is that the profession is being portrayed in a very different light in those
Yeah.
series.
Yeah. Yeah, good that you got that thing. Yes. So profession, yeah, I think I totally agree, because so if a lady is a forensic psychologist in any series, so she's been shown as she's probably wearing boots, or pants, or like having that strict look on the face. But that's not the case. It's not like how you practice it. I mean, maybe it's just the cinematic thing that we see. But yes, and also it's kind of a little exaggerated, because we understand it's a drama at the end of the day. But when we talk about forensic psychology, one thing that we should understand, that it's not that you just look at someone and then you say he's a criminal or she's a criminal. That's not the
Yes,
case. Or it's not like your sixth sense is always there, working feature, like a tick tick tick. No, that's not the thing. It's like you study it, you study an individual for months, for years, and then you reach to a conclusion. Because as a psychologist, and you all are also somewhere down the line associated to psychology, we understand that human behavior and human mind is very complex. It's not
yes,
very easy, that it's not like 2 plus 2. It's very complex, and sometimes the behavior can be unpredictable. It can be manipulative. It can be like like it shows something else, but there is something else. A lot of defenses are working for the portrait behavior. So it's not that easy, to kind of like for a forensic psychologist, or say for example any psychologist, to kind of just give an answer that what, if he's doing something like that, that means he is the criminal. Like, I'll tell you what, like people say that they are like, they kind of relate to their past experiences, or may they kind of relate to their body languages and all. So but that's not the case. Every person is different, their mindset is different, their behavior to particular situation is different. So I think those things needs to be analyzed. And also with that, what I personally think that one is that how you analyze it, but also for a psychologist, in terms of industrial, clinical, forensic, military, any psychologist, people kind of take them for granted, like, oh, you're a psychologist, you should know this. Oh, you're a psychologist, you should know how to deal with this. That's, I think, very wrong, because they don't 24/7, they don't think psychology all the time. They are humans at the end of the day. They may have their own problems, they may have their own troubles, they may have their own set of thinking, thoughts, beliefs, so
Yes,
I think that is something which is really very pressurizing to a psychologist, and I think it is mostly seen in India. Like that day I was reading one article on psychologist psychology, so it's still there on the net. So you read it, and then the pressure that they get, if they make a mistake, you're a psychologist, how can you do that? So it's very bad, so, and in India I think this is something uh, we need to study and we need to rectify, and I think it will take years for us to study and rectify. But yes, yeah, that is one thing that I would surely mention.
yes, ma'am. And being from a psychology background, everybody expects you to be emotionally stable all the time. You
Yeah,
cannot
and
have your own problems because you are from psychology. You should know how you should deal with it.
yeah, and that's wrong. I mean, and that's a common thing that we usually say, that uh, is a surgeon doing his own surgery, like, do you see a surgeon doing his own surgery? Because he's a surgeon, he knows how to deal with surgeries. That doesn't mean that he'll do his own surgery. He can have
Yes,
his own things. And if a doctor is dealing with viruses, that doesn't mean that he will not have a virus himself. So that's very simple. But yeah, when it's psychology. And one thing is very unfortunate, that it's been now years and years, but still this field, which is actually the core of everything, is still not been recognized in our nation. So I don't understand that why and what is happening. And still I'll say that there are stigmas to it. People are
yes,
now getting educated, people are now getting the knowledge of it, but still like there are stigmas to such emotions and such illnesses. So and I think it will still take more years for people to come out of it and to rectify it. Because if there are emotional disturbances, people say that या तो ये पागल हो गई है, or psychotic hai, uh,
yes,
even they don't know what psychotic means, like what is the actual literally dictionary meaning of psychotism. So
yes,
it's just that they label, and they just want to use it for, because they are like, they don't have the knowledge, or probably to just put that person down, or to just kind of say whatever that comes to the mind. But what is happening, because all these things, the importance of the field is going down, okay, and
yes,
that's why people are not openly coming out and sharing their illness or their problems. And let's not talk about illness, but also about the emotional disturbances. And it is considered as okay, yeah, it's okay, everyone goes through it, everyone goes through it. And that's why in the literature world, if we see, we are known as the society of oppressed, I think. we can connect the both schools, and we can say that yes, we are society of oppressed. We don't have that freedom. Not even, not I'm not only talking about women, but men also. Men cannot have such illnesses, but men can have such illnesses, and it's okay. They can have emotional ups and downs. It's okay to talk about it. But because patriarchy and all those things, and the field ultimately is losing its own importance value. So yeah.
Yes, ma'am. The taboo for mental illness in India, it's just hyping up day after
Yeah,
day.
it's
There's no
actually
improvement
it,
in
it should go down, but actually I don't know. And what is the unfortunate thing that is being seen, that yes, I think somewhere down the line, I mean, I'm not trying to put a class or something, but say for example, people from the lower socio-economic background, let's put me like that, let us put like that, they are more aware of that. They come openly and they say that I need a psychiatrist or I need a psychologist. The people who are from the higher socio-demographic backgrounds, they are not very open about it, and they try to kind of hide, or they try to kind of put it in another way. So I think it shouldn't happen like that. And also one more thing that I have seen, that okay, this, so we are talking about mental illnesses and all those things, which is fine, but also developmental disorders. When we talk about children, okay, so when there are adults, and then they have these issues, like after certain years, or after, like say for example, menopause or something, which is chalo understood. Okay, they don't have that much of knowledge. But developmental disorders like that we see in children, that we talk about mental retardation, or we talk about conduct disorders, or we talk about autism spectrum. People are so not aware of that, so there is zero acceptability. And because of that particular thing, the child who's actually into that is suffering, because there's a lot of pressure being put on that child. There's a lot of questions, unnecessary questions asked to that child, or maybe the worries that is very much visible uh, on mothers' faces or fathers' faces, and which may hamper the child. So these are things which are not being taught, which are not being discussed openly. And also there's one thing, that also when we talk about pediatrician, or like gynecologist, they should compulsorily talk about prenatal problems, they should talk about postnatal problems, and they should talk about psychological issues like developmental issues. So when a mother is conceiving, she will be prepared that something like this can be there, rather just being like something which I don't know, or what is happening, or she'll get into depression, or she'll project a depression on her child. So I think this is something which not only psychologists, but the relating disciplines like gynec or pediatricians, there are postpartum depressions which people are not aware of till now, till day. And postpartum depression is a natural biological process, okay? And people, first of all, they don't understand. I can also give a benefit of doubt to that, but because of their not understanding this, they put a lot of emotional pressure on the person who's already into depression. So I think it's not
yes,
right, it's unfair, it's emotionally unfair. And I think such things needs to be discussed openly. And I don't know how, but I think the upcoming organizations like you can kind of take the agenda ahead, and can train more people and spread the awareness. So yeah.
yes. It's, I feel that it's the social self of the people. They want to, they basically want to maintain a social image for themselves, and don't want anybody to point fingers at their mental health, and that is why they
Yeah,
just cover their emotional upheaval.
yeah, I agree to it totally. Yes, yes. So all these things, there are these issues which are already going on, and I really hope that maybe such initiatives and such programs will help people to kind of change their mentality, or maybe to help someone. So yes, yeah,
Yes. So I'm coming back to forensic psychology. So one thing that we wanted to know was what are the academic qualifications that one needs to get established as a forensic psychologist?
So I'll tell you what. There are two things. Okay, so one, like two regulatory bodies we talk about. So one is the RCI, okay, Rehabilitation Council of
Yes.
India, and second is I just forgot the name. Something to do with applied. I'll get to that. So
Yes.
so when we talk about forensic psychology, okay, so let's talk about India first. Students are already, like, even still there are these universities who are offering psychology under the field of humanities and arts. So
Yes.
I think GFSU has this provision that, if you have done your BA in psychology, you get MA in psychology, and if you have done your BSc in any other discipline, you get your MSc in forensic psychology. Okay, so it's like the MA in forensic psychology slash MSc in forensic psychology, but the
Yes.
curriculum is the same. It's only that, what your graduation degrees are. You will get the master's degree accordingly. So there is
Yes.
that thing to it. And then after masters, like for psychology, we have to understand one thing, that only undergraduation is not enough. You have to do your PG, you have to get your masters.
Yes.
So once you have done your masters, I think you can get into any good organizations or agencies, or there are these government jobs that could come out, and depends which organization would want what sort of experience. Okay, so you may go
Yes.
according to that. Second, what you can do is then you can later go for your PhD or side. Okay, now I think in India, I
Yes.
think there's this organization in Hyderabad who offers PsyD, but abroad there are some really good universities who are offering PsyD. So what they do, they would offer you a PhD where you also get to put Doctor Srishti Malhotra, and
Yes.
you also get your licensing done. Okay, so that's the case for abroad. In India, if you do your PhD, you're very good with academics. So any good universities will take you into as an assistant professor, and then as per your API, like your self-rating skills, you get the higher position. With that, one important thing, that whether you have done PhD or not, is your research work. Okay, so
Yes.
you continuously have to, if you are interested in the field, in a particular field, like here we are talking about forensic psychology. uh, is the meeting going to end?
No, ma'am. It's just been extended.
Okay, okay, yeah. So if you have done your forensic psychology or not, any discipline, you have to do research work. Okay, so research work always keeps you up to dated to the latest, happenings in the field, and you're fine. You know that what is happening. Also, you have to, continue your studies, as in, you can go and attend some CME classes or CME workshop that will give you the touch to the present scenario of your field. Okay, because what usually
Yes.
do, and that's the common mistake that we all do, that once we are done with our masters, we are done with our PhD, and when we get into job, we stop studying. So I think such
Yes.
stop short workshops or courses or research works or seminars should be attended, so that at least you are in connection to the latest happenings about your field. Okay, so that is one
Yes.
thing. Secondly, like if I talk about my organization, we are into science, pure science. Okay, so we usually take
Yes.
students from the who are like biology, physics, or chemistry, or math. Okay, so because
Yes.
like as my initiative, I want to kind of give more importance to psychology in the field of science.
Yes.
Another thing, like what I talked about RCI, was that after doing masters, students go for MPhils. Okay, now
Yes,
MPhil भी दो type का है. So one is like RCI MPhil and one is normal MPhil. Okay, so normal MPhil is for
yes,
1 year, which is purely research based. But when you do RCI MPhil, which has its own benefit that you get to practice psychology. Okay, and then you get a license. Now that license is very much valid in India, and you can establish your own setup and you can work as a clinical psychologist. Okay, but
yes,
again, mark my word, that doesn't mean that the person who has done psychology as who has done psychology in masters cannot work as a psychologist. They can, but they can't put themselves as a clinical psychologist. And secondly, when we
yes,
talk about certificates, those are given for uh, disabilities that can't be given by a normal psychologist, and that can be only given by an RCI recognized psychologist. Okay. Now,
yes,
the thing is that there are a lot of debates going on between the regulatory bodies. So, one is the Applied Health Body. I don't know the full name, but it is Applied Health something. You later can search it on Google. So, that there's
yes,
this one body, regulatory body I'm talking about, who's actually working for students who have done masters in psychology, and then we have the other people who are RCI and who are saying that what, if you are MPhil then you can work as a psychologist. Now there's always a
yes,
clash going on between two, because they always say that so what about the students who have just done masters, aren't they supposed to kind of work, they are supposed to get jobs, which is also fair. Then we have this side of the people who are saying that we have put the RCI into consideration, and we deal with mental health and with an individual. So also they are fair. So now these two bodies are like clashing with each other, and then they have their own set of rules. Okay, but I think both
yes,
of them are valid. So even if you do your masters and then you go into academics and teach and practice and research, it's fine. But the RCI says that when you talk about disabilities, you talk about when you give a certificate, because disability act says that so, children who have disability will get a grace, or will be pushed to
yes,
another grade. So with that, you have to take the RCI into consideration. So this is the basic difference. So yes, but those who have done their bachelors in so bachelors in psychology, like arts, like I'm talking about BA in arts or something like that, can also be a psychologist. So that's not a problem then. Yeah.
yes, ma'am. So, what I was trying to ask, ma'am, was that if there's somebody who has pursued clinical psychology till masters and now wants to pursue forensic psychology, is it possible for them to do another master's in forensic
Indeed,
psychology?
yes, yes, indeed. There are students who are like not very happy doing clinical psychology in masters, and they want to go and do their forensic psychology. They are into such things, and because they are okay, like it's okay. Like, so see what happens. I'll give you this social example that so when you finish masters, you're about like 22, 23. Okay, so
Yes, ma'am.
students, so people at that age, they are into this dilemma, like whether I should put my more 2 years in studying, or should I just get a job, because and then there's another question, like in some families. Okay, then for girls usually there's a question of marriage, that like I've done my masters, so my parents are looking out for guys or whatever. I'm just giving a wide social example. So it
Yes,
depends on person to person. But to answer your question specifically, if you have the time, you have the energy, and you want to kind of invest your money, that yes, I want to do a double masters, you can do it. Not an issue with that at all. So there are students like I know a few of my students who have done their masters, and now they have gone abroad and they have done their other masters. Okay, so
yes,
they are so that's okay, that's fair enough. And I think the masters that they do it from India will nothing but it just helps them to kind of get this thing, like the helps into the admissions, and some extra knowledge, and the hours gets deducted and all those things. So yes, it's quite possible for them to do masters in forensic psychology, even they have done their masters in clinical.
Okay, ma'am. And other thing, ma'am, if we have already pursued a master's in clinical and the student doesn't want to study any further, so can they switch their fields in the professional front after that, or do they need any other certification for that?
I didn't get the question. So if you have done your masters in clinical and then
Yes, ma'am. Then I want to work as a forensic psychologist, but I do not want to pursue another master's in forensic psychology per se.
indeed, yeah. So there are people who have done that thing, that they have done their masters in clinical and they want to see. I'll tell you what, clinical is a larger field. Okay, so clinical talks about a
Yes,
lot
ma'am.
of different domains. Okay, it's not only talking about mental health patients, but also different like other varieties of like other varieties of organizations and areas of psychology. So
Yes,
there are people who have done their masters in clinical and are working in the field of forensic psychology, so it is okay. But again, the question now is that it depends on the organization. Okay, so if me as
yes, ma'am.
organization says that I want somebody to work with a patient, okay, and he is a prisoner, okay, just an example,
Yes,
is a prisoner, and I want somebody who has a basic knowledge on psychology and somebody who's done their masters in clinical psychology, because not everyone is master in forensic psychology, and I want
yes,
somebody like that, and I have that requirement, and you come to me and you're still working with a forensic patient and you're still working in the field of forensic psychology, so it's
yes,
okay. So there are people who do that, so it's completely fine, because at the end of the day it's psychology. But yeah,
yes,
somebody who's done their sociology or maybe some political science can't work in the field of forensic psychology. So yeah,
yes.
it should be
Uh,
psychology at the end of the day.
yes, ma'am. So we can pursue our studies in any field of psychology, and then after we get trained under specific professionals from the fields, then we can switch our fields in our professional front.
Yes, yes, yes. But the basis should be the same. Like psychology should be the
Yes,
same. Yeah, the base of your studies. That's what I'm talking about.
yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, what are the various professional responsibilities of a forensic psychologist?
So, when I talk about professional responsibilities, the first thing that really comes to my mind is taking care of your own self. Okay, what
Yes,
generally happens that, and let's understand this as a like for any psychology discipline, psychologists
yes,
actually do work hard, and when I say by that they work very hard, what I mean here is that they have a very their mental functioning is actually I can say it's been utilized more than the physical work, so mentally they are
yes,
completely into that. Okay, and because of that it does happen that they get carried away with the emotions, or with the case, or with the behavior, and they try to justify certain things. Okay, so I think taking
yes,
care of your own self and going back to the neutral level, because at the end of the day we shouldn't be forgetting that we are human beings. Okay, so going
yes,
back to the neutral level and maintaining that thing, that what, I'm just going to work as a professional, and I'm just going to give my professional guidance or whatever the case would require. Beyond that, I'm not going to get involved, so I'm not going to get into any transference or counter transference, if you understand what is
yes,
transference and counter transference. So I'm not going to
yes,
get
ma'am.
involved into that. So I think that is first and foremost thing that we should take care of, taking care of your own self. Okay, taking time out for
Yes,
your own self, and being neutral, so you can go and you can go out and have fun. You can have your own friends, you can have your own set of thinking, you can have your own set of enjoyment or whatever, because usually when we talk about psychology, like I just said about the OTT platforms, like they are like very like very straight, and they're very like tight, and they're like this, I'm not going to do that. No, no, it's okay to be easy, it's okay to have fun, it's okay to crack jokes and all. So it's okay to do all those things so that you be neutral to your patients, you be neutral to your cases. Okay, so that's something very important that I would like to share. Secondly, when we talk about professionalism, when I said that you need to be up to date, to be
Yes.
up to date means that what is happening presently. Because if you have a person, or say for example a teenager who is like into cyber crimes, and probably he is kind of active on what is that thing, TikTok or something. Okay, so even you need to be aware, what is TikTok, what is the psychology behind that, what are likes, what do you mean by followers, and if there's a blue tick, that means what. So now there are actually professionals who are like, they are very good when it comes to psychology, but when it comes to the present knowledge, the present happenings, they lack in that.
Yes.
Okay, and it's not wrong, but because since technologically we are going extremely fast, so I think we have to be professionally up to date. So yeah.
And we, as a forensic psychologist, we deal with criminals, victims, or the police and other
With
eyewitnesses.
families,
All
with
the people
police,
related.
with justice, with judiciary systems, even somewhere down the line with investigative journalists as well, because you know that there are many investigative journalists, and there's this established field of investigative journalism where they have solved cases only through the medium of mass media, like this case, Jessica Lal's case,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
the journalist took this active role. Okay, so it's not only with criminals, but then you have journalists, who can kind of give the right information and the wrong information as well. When we talk about
Yes,
Arushi Talwar's case, because of the police's uh, a lack of responsibility, the entire case, which could have solved that very day, went for a
yes,
toss, and still we have no proper idea that what has happened. So the
yes,
proper
ma'am.
training to police, and the people who are associated to that, and also people who are actually working, say behind the screens. When we talk about forensic team, when we talk about uh, people who manage evidences, so each and everything is
Yes,
important. Eyewitness testimony is important, everything is important.
yes,
So yes, I think it's not only and only related to criminals, but I think people around that. And also, when we talk about sociology, I forgot to mention one thing. When we talk about forensic psychology, sociology is very important. Okay, because society is something which actually pushes crime a lot. Okay,
yes,
so
ma'am.
we also have to kind of take care of that thing, because sociology is an important area that has been studied in forensic psychology for further studies, for further predictive crimes. Okay, because domestic violence directly is associated to sociology, the ideas that society already contains. So I think
Yes.
sociology is also part of it. So yeah.
And ma'am, the private investigators, do you feel that even they should have a knowledge about
Yeah,
the,
indeed, I think a lot of
not private,
private.
but detectives basically?
You mean the private detectives? This is what you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am. Like the people, you people, like there are people who hire detectives to keep a check on their family members or
Yeah,
friends or
yeah, I
anything.
think yes, because there may be, like, that they can have a biased opinion. Okay, and
Yes,
their biases can lead to misunderstandings, or false judgment or something like that. So I think
yes,
such things are important for when we deal with something which goes to justice. I think these things are important
yes,
to be studied, and psychology should be given the preference in that.
yes. And ma'am, another thing, these days, most of there are cases where there is a majority amount of evidence, that is based on technology, like the WhatsApp chats or other things. Like we recently had a case where one of the plans it got viral, and then it was very hyped up on the internet. So, do you feel that psychologists should also have a gist about all of these things as well? That what is authentic and what is not?
Yeah. See, I'll tell you what, when we start the forensic interview, the first and the foremost thing that we study is the history. Okay. History on
Yes,
anything is very important. Okay. And then history also has its own components, like, which is also directly related to forensic psychiatric history, which is personal history, where we talk about the childhood, when we talk about their education and their pre-morbid personalities and many such things. Okay, so I think history is
yes,
very important, and they should know that if I am going to talk about somebody, then if whether I know that person inside out, like
yes,
that what race does that person belong to, what caste that this person belongs to, or what is his political ideas, or what the person's likes dislikes are. If you know somebody inside out, like, I don't say that you really have to get into like the person, but the standardized protocol should be followed. And once you are completely say when you completely study, then you can proceed further. Okay, so it's like, when you finish first grade, then you go to 10th grade. It's not that you go to 10th grade directly and then you get graduation. So no, you have to follow each and every step, and then after getting a proper history, then the case should be studied and the relevant questions should be asked, and then a conclusion should be made. So yeah.
yes. Now, another thing, criminology and forensic psychology, they are very similar fields. So,
Yeah.
what is the major line of difference between them?
Well, okay, so when we talk about criminology, this is how we differentiate that criminology usually contains penology, legal psychology, sociology, and forensic psychology. When we talk about forensic psychology, we usually talk about the modern investigative techniques. Okay, and then we talk about general psychology and applied psychology and sociology. Okay, so this is the difference. But I think if you study forensic psychology, you should know what is criminology. If you study criminology, you should know what is forensic psychology. And actually, these two fields are quietly associated to one another. So when students study criminology, they study psychology as well. Okay, and then students study forensic psychology, they do study sociology. So these are like interlinked disciplines, and I think there's no major difference, but it's just like a bifurcation of something. So yeah.
Yes. And then just one last thing. Do you feel that there's a gender predominance in the field of forensic psychology? Because basically, uh, forensic psychologists, they deal with criminals and victims and other things. But then in India, people feel that these are the things that a man should do, and a woman should not get involved into stuff like
And
this.
with my experience, I think it has changed, but it has not changed because it's because of a man or a woman. I'll tell you what. Again, I'll go back to my first point, that when it comes to psychology, okay. I don't know, in India it's like only women, they are into humanities and psychology,
Yes,
and then the parents, they have a different notion about it. But I'll tell you that like women are not like girls. Let's put it this way: girls are not good in math. Okay, so they take
yes,
arts or they take humanities. Okay, and they can be good teachers, or like good, they are good in comforting somebody or soft to somebody, so they take humanities and they proceed that way. But I don't understand that where this thing's coming from. But and that's why, because the graduation ratio is more female, the master ratio
yes,
gets more female, and then the male ratio gets less. So that's why in psychology, male population is less. This is what I feel. But when we talk
Yes.
about forensic psychology, because of the present awareness, men are also getting involved and they are getting into it. But again, talking about our nation, it's like men are usually into engineering and technical things, or like uh, computer science, or maybe doing mbas and all, and are kind of because the job opportunities are more, and they have a responsibility that once they get married they have to take care of the families and all. So with this particular set of thinking, I think all these things are like uh, it's like a domino effect, if I talk like that.
Yes.
But the students whom I have taught, I have seen that I think women are more into psychology and now forensic psychology specifically, and male ratio
Yes,
is
ma'am.
less. So I think I remember, like in my class even today, like in my class, like I have 54 students. There are only two
Yes,
boys
ma'am.
and the rest of them are girls. So you can
Yes,
either
ma'am.
say they are lucky guys or I don't know what. Yeah.
Yes. So ma'am, that is all I had. Uh, Other thing, ma'am, would you like to guide all of us, the students who are pursuing psychology, into at this point in time, we are very confused about where in what field should we pursue our masters, and considering the pandemic, we cannot get the proper training under the professionals who are
Yeah.
working as psychologists, and this is a major setback for us, and we are very confused as to what should we pursue as our majors. So could you please guide us into the process of
I think
deciding it?
what I'll kind of since you have asked for my guidance, I'll suggest that just go for something which has MPsych or MSc in clinical psychology, because clinical
Yes.
psychology will give you this larger view, and you'll get to study other disciplines as well. And
Yes, ma'am.
if you decide to stay in India, okay, of
Yes,
course,
ma'am.
like for any person who is actually wanting to move forward with psychology as profession, so even if you're in India or you're outside somewhere, I think PhD is must. Just don't restrict yourselves just by doing masters and then getting into a job. That a few you'll get a job, no doubt about it, but the scope,
Yes, ma'am.
and not only the scope, but the development of your thinking, or like your reasoning will be limited. Because I think
Yes,
once you do your PhD, you get open to a lot of different areas. Okay, so don't
yes,
restrict yourselves to masters. You can do your this thing your master's in clinical psychology, then go for PhD. Or if you really want to get into government setup, or if you really want to get into private practices where you want to work with disabilities or something, then you should go for MPhil RCI. and and you, if you really have that thing that I really want to explore myself more, I think you should get into any other universities like abroad, and you should study international psychology. I think that is
yes,
really helpful these days. And they have the scope on women studies, gender studies, disabilities, developmental studies. So I think that gives a larger scope. And you can like climatic studies. And also I think one thing that I recently read, that now like if I talk about abroad, people are getting into zoology, and they are studying psychology. So animal
yes,
psychology has also been studied, and people are getting into that. And they are helping how they are training pets in terms of helping people with disabilities like mental challenges, autism and all.
yes,
I think something that can be done. And even dogs are being trained to recognize if there are cancer cells. So I think a lot of studies
yes,
are being done that way. So I think that would be great. And I think abroad, and even if you stay here, I think you should, if you don't get a source uh, of somebody teaching you that, I think you should write a research paper. Research paper will help you
Yes,
training your own self, and then you can publish it at a good journal, Scopus or something, and then see where you stand. And I think that would really help. And then if you really have funds, if you have the capacity, if you have time, energy, you should establish your own organizations, and can invite people and train others for the fields which are not available in India, and help the nation to develop. So yeah.
yes. So, ma'am, that was all from my side. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was great having you.
Thank you so much for inviting, and I wish you all the best. And if anything you need our help, my university's help, or I have students who are like really doing good, so we would really love to help you all.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.